Hi, I'm Ben. I'm an animator.
Hey, I'm Victor Hugo Calleja. I'm a visual development artist.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Galeano, and I'm an aspiring story artist.
And welcome to the Up and Coming Artist Podcast. Woohoo! Thanks for coming on the show, guys.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm so glad to be able to talk to you. It's been too long. Probably what, like a year, maybe?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, especially with the quarantine. It's good to see familiar faces, fun faces. I was telling my girlfriend who hasn't met you guys yet, I was like, I wish you could be here on this episode because even though we didn't get as much time to hang out in school, which is where we all met for people listening, as I wanted to, you guys have always been like some of the nicest people, genuine people every time we get to hang out. So it's awesome to have you on.
Sweet, man.
That's really nice of you. Thank you.
And it's awesome too to have another power couple on the podcast. I've had Luigi and Sheila. Yeah, they're giving fist bumps and all this stuff for all you people listening. These guys are so awesome. Sorry, let me not talk over you guys now. While I have you on, but you guys just described yourselves and the kind of art that you do. Could you guys talk about real quick how you've been handling living in, and this is for everyone listening, this is coming out in 2020 during the height of the COVID-19, how you guys have been handling being artists during the midst of a quarantine?
I mean, so for me, I'm in a unique situation right now, whereas I'm in hiatus. So it almost feels like it's just, I guess, balancing time with art stuff, with like life stuff. I don't know if that helps at all, but I think it's just making time for both things and knowing that it's okay to not do art, if you're not feeling it, and just be there for your friends and family or even yourself, but just not being so hard on yourself while making art. Is kind of how I've been handling the situation.
I've noticed you've also taken the opportunity, the extra time to work on your passion project.
Yeah. So another thing I've been working on is just my card game. It's been a really fun side gig to have, and just it feels good to actually have a whole day or a week towards it. So that's what I've been working on. That's my end. Yeah.
For me, so I was in production for a while, so I actually didn't have a ton of time to work on art. But I changed that recently, and I've been taking a class. It's a storyboard mentorship through CGMA with Kevin Reed. So pretty much that class and drawing has been like my whole day, and it's been great. It's been a while since I felt super productive with art, so I've really taken the time to do that. I left my job in production, which is why I had the time to work on that class.
Wow. Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's what a great answer. You guys working on yourselves personally during a time, when everyone's experiencing hardship and stuff. I mean, that's just got to be the best thing you can do. So that's super awesome, you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's about, taking a negative situation and making it a positive, with what you can for what it is. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, we had talked about this for everyone listening right before the recording, but Victor, you were saying you were on, what project were you on, and then how did that happen with the quarantine?
So basically, at the end of February, we were set to have a 1-month hiatus after wrapping up Spider-Man over at Marvel. And what happened was the pandemic hit, and then just our show was pushed back until where we're at now, and the whole entertainment industry was hit. There's a few of us that are very fortunate to still have work, and I'm very happy for everyone. But there are a lot of stories of people out there that just got hit by this. That's okay. What matters, you guys have money saved up, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I mean, you guys, like you'd already said, are doing exactly the right thing. I mean, it's so encouraging for me to hear about you guys working on yourselves, and then with you, Vanessa, working on your passion with storyboarding. So how did you hear about that opportunity?
So funny enough, I actually found it through Twitter. There was a controversy about art school going on. So a lot of big name artists I cannot remember who the artist was, I'm sorry. She basically was like, hey, here are some resources instead of art school. And so she posted a bunch of links. So Ben's CDA class was on there. I tried signing up for that, but I wasn't on the mailing list. So it was immediately closed when I tried signing up for that. But I was looking at the other resources that she posted, and a lot of people were talking about that one. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And so I went ahead and signed up for that one at CGMA, and I'm loving it so far. He's really a great instructor, and he really pushes us too.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I had a production job at Warner Brothers with Jellystone, and I was working from home on that project, and that was great. I had a great time, and I loved it. It was challenging and all that. And when I signed up for the CGMA class, I kind of realized if I really want to put like 100% of my effort into the class, I won't be able to balance both. Some people are able to do that, but I really wanted to completely dedicate my time with that class. So I made a leap of faith and a tough decision. I talked to a few like mentors and with my family, of course, and I came to the conclusion like, all right, here we go. So I left my job so I can really focus on what I want to do long term, and it's definitely storyboarding.
And she's only been doing it for like 2 weeks, and
yeah, this is my second
she's
week.
learned so much already, dude. It's nuts.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's incredible, man. It's so cool for me to also be able to hear about how just inspiring you are. Just like, I'm going to pursue my passion. That's so cool.
Well, to be transparent with you, man, like, honestly, like, after I heard the bad news at Marvel, like, I was, like, in a slump, and she was, like, having to pump me up every couple, hours or days, and it was tough, I'm not going to lie. But, yeah, it's, like, it's okay to be down while this stuff's happening.
Yeah.
But also, don't wallow in it, and just move forward. So.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, you guys. Like you were just saying, Victor, like in these serious times, we can lean on each other. And I think this is extra cool for me to have both of you on this episode because you guys are there for each other.
Thank you. I've definitely learned a ton from Victor.
Exactly. Same way over here.
Thank you. Like today we were critiquing each other's art. We went cafe sketching. It was like an outdoor setting and there was like a lot of social distancing. So and we had our masks and everything like that. So we were playing it as safe as we can. And we were just looking at each other's art like, the proportions on that are a little off. Like we seriously, we don't stop critiquing each other, but we've definitely learned a lot from each other because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and it's cool too that you guys have that kind of a relationship because critiquing someone can be hard, and like, it's like the emotional tension. So that's awesome. But okay, so you guys have mentioned working for Marvel and working for Warner Brothers. I mean, these are just major staples of the industry here. So you guys, for everyone listening, they can tell you guys are top notch. And we'll get to, at the end of the episode, just like where they can go to check out your guys' Instagram and stuff. But what I always like to start with is, you guys are way up here now. But at some point, you guys had to start somewhere. So how did you guys get into art in the first place?
It's always been a thing for me. I was very fortunate to have parents who were very supportive of, my creative just interests, whether that be like showing me Pokemon and just like all these cartoons and Legos and always just, they were great parents, and I really feel that they had a great influence into why I do what I do today. Mm-hmm. And then leading up to that, it's the projects or the games that I would play and stuff like that. And that just like really motivated me to do my own drawings and just do my own worlds and stories. And that was like huge on why I, pursued my career where I'm at today. And I didn't know it was a career until like, I think last year of high school, So it's just like, oh, okay, well, in the meantime, I'll go to a transfer. I got accepted to Cal State Fullerton, but I chose to not go just because I didn't have a major yet. And so I decided to do community college because it was cheaper, and I was very fortunate to have financial aid. So that was a huge help, and that takes a big comeback. I know a lot of people don't have that, or if they do, it's hard to access school. But I was very fortunate to go to school and study at Orange Coast College. I studied concept design for games, and even through transferring to Cal State Fullerton, that was still what I wanted to do initially. And I would have internships in between all my education and stuff for like game studios, one of them being Gadgetbot Productions, and the other one I think it was USC Game Pipe Laboratory, and they were very fortunate to take me on. But literally, like I think 2 or 3 weeks before graduation, I looked at my friends and just like the kind of work I love doing, and it was never really like that really photorealistic stuff that people would do. Like my buddy, I know you might know Dominic Jaro.
Yeah,
that's his jam, dude. So, and it's like he went more of that concept art route. I ended up finding myself in more of a biz dev area for animation and even stylized games, but I decided to just go full throttle with animation, and so I switched my portfolio last second and just started really like injecting all that animation juice into these characters and stuff, and just there's so much to learn about animation. Obviously we can go into like the classes I didn't take and could have taken, but I'm not going to go all about it.
Oh, we got time, man. We got time, and we'll hear from Vanessa too. But yeah, man, anything you want to share. I mean, I think it's cool for me to just hear like, seeing those influences like Pokemon and stuff, and like, as far as the cards go, great illustration. And then you go into the anime and it's like, great animation. I could see that, even back then, and of course you have other influences too, but like leading you kind of to animation, I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and it's great, but back then when I was in school, I would say I was pretty narrow-minded in what I wanted to take in which classes. But it's okay because, what matters is, we move forward and we grow from our mistakes, right? And at the end of the day, it's just like, yeah, I wish I had taken like some animation courses, because it definitely would have had an influence into what, I wanted to do, because I did take classes where I was able to focus on a project, and that did help me develop my portfolio, which did help me get a job, right? But it would have been nice to learn a little more about animation, because animation is such an amazing, field, and just there's so much that goes behind it into the, I don't know, and it would have been awesome to learn a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
So that's what I said.
I feel you, man, and not to keep talking over you guys in any way, but like I feel that with it from the illustration side as an animator, I'm like, man, I wish I was a better drafts person, like you guys. So I think there's always going to be that. We have a mutual respect for each other, I think.
Yeah. Well, not only like each other, but like other fields too, because like, let's say, you major in science and stuff like that, that could have totally had an influence on, on your art and stuff like that. Like, for example, like Alex Neonakis, she's currently a character designer by Naughty Dog. She majored in biology, and just like, that's something she takes into her day and everyday work today. The Last of Us and stuff like that. So yeah, that's just an example. Shout out, I guess.
Yeah, shout out. Yeah, that's awesome. That's super cool. We'll get more into that, but first we'll hear from Vanessa.
Sure. I also had really supportive parents, especially when I like kind of talked to them about what it's like the whole animation. I knew I wanted to draw, and then it was around high school when I got into those behind the scenes like Pixar or Disney like extras on in the DVDs. And I remember the first one I saw was like a Monsters Inc. behind the scenes, and then they were talking about like, oh, these are what storyboards are. I was like, whoa, you can do that? You can yeah. And so it was like around high school where I was like, okay, well, I want to do that. And my parents were really supportive about it. In high school, I was a smart kid. I took AP classes. I wasn't super motivated.
Who is in high school?
Yeah, right? I didn't care about AP Bio as much as I did AP Art and my film class, so I did not turn in a lot of my work. And when I applied to Cal State Fullerton, I was not accepted.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I went to community college, where I'm very thankful I did, because I met two like the best people ever there, Cheyenne Zavala.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out. And Jackie Munoz.
Shout out.
Yeah, still friends with them, and I'm so happy I met them. They definitely influenced me as an artist. We had the same kind of mentality where we pushed each other, but we also like nurtured each other's growth, and we still do. And I love those girls. And Derek Ortega, shout out! Like he's shout out! Derek Ortega is really awesome. He's currently at Netflix, I think, and he's a cool friend. Love that guy.
Flex though, dude.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. The Netflix flex. And someone else brought him up in one of my last podcast episodes. So yeah, that's super awesome.
Yeah, I went to community college with those folks. We went our separate ways. They went to Art Center. I wanted to go to Cal State Fullerton because my best friend Erin Younger, shout out! she was accepted to Cal State Fullerton. So when I was in community college, she was in Cal State Fullerton. She was another like artist friend, and we have our art dates, we like to call them, where we'd go to each other's houses and we would talk about how our school's going. And I learned a lot about Fullerton and the Pencil Mileage Club through her. And
Shout out!
shout out! And so I was interested in going to Cal State Fullerton. My friends tried to convince me to go to Art Center. I'm like, no, I want the community. So I went to Cal State Fullerton, joined the honors program, joined PMC. I was a member, like, as soon as I transferred over from community college, fell in love with it. I became VP my last year. Was it my last year? I can't remember.
I should know this.
Well, I remember. I think that was like one of my last years, or maybe or you were the vice president of that club right after I left school. I mean, that's so awesome. So you guys did a great job. I love Pencil Mileage Club. Shout out.
Yeah, love those guys. So I joined PMC and became VP. Internship season rolled along. I applied. At that time, Miguel Baltazar was working there.
Shout out!
And I messaged him like, hey, would you happen to have the name and email of the recruiter? And he was really nice to give it to me because we knew of each other and we would talk every now and then at school. But like, that was it. So he was really kind to have, like, when I reached out to have done that, and I look back and I'm like, oh, thank you, Miguel, because of that I got a call from DreamWorks for an internship opportunity. Like, oh, we would like to interview you, like after the phone interview, because I hit up the recruiter through email, like, oh, I was referred to you by Miguel, like I got your email from him. So because of that, it counted as a referral. And I didn't know that.
Yeah, I feel like that should give Miguel like a like they should give him a pay raise or something, like a pyramid scheme where, like, hey, I got Vanessa in, so no, just kidding. Yeah.
But I had no idea it was going to count as a referral. I mentioned him because I didn't want to seem like a creeper, like, oh, I got your email.
Probably a good move.
It counted as a referral, which I did not know it would do that. So I interned at DreamWorks. That was my second to last semester, and it was an awesome opportunity, and I met really good people, and it only lasted that semester because it was for She-Ra and Harvey Street Kids, and
shout out,
and those shows wrapped by the time I was done with my internship, so it wasn't like possible to carry over. And then I graduated, and it was like silence for a bit. That post-graduation silence? Yes.
Oh my gosh. I think everyone, if they didn't experience it, like right after graduating, they will,
So yeah, it was that silence. And I remember I was in the kitchen with my mom, and I'm like, I came to terms I might not get a job this year. This was like the end of 2019, and I'm like, and I'm okay with it, I just got to keep working hard and reach out to people. And as I was talking to her about that, I got a text from who was my old supervisor at DreamWorks saying, hey, Vanessa, and I was like, oh sorry.
You're like, I should have talked to my mom about this earlier. Yeah.
So I got the text message, and I was like, oh my gosh, Mom, like my old supervisor is messaging me. And he was reaching out to see if I was looking for a job, and I'm like, yes. And so at that time he was working for Warner Brothers Animation, and his name's David Wong.
Shout out.
And so he brought me in to interview at Warner Brothers Animation, and there I hit it off with the team. They were really cool, and I love them, and I miss them dearly. I worked for Guess Who Scooby-Doo, which is like a lesser known like Scooby-Doo TV series. And that team rolled over to Jellystone, which is the
Yogi Bear show, right?
Yogi Bear show. So I did that for a while. I helped them with like part of their first season, and then I left to work on the storyboard mentorship with Kevin Reed.
Wow. Man, that's so awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, I know. I love it how like you just are like talking about someone or something. I feel like this happens in life in general, and then all of a sudden that thing just comes right back up. So that's super cool that happened for you and getting that opportunity. And I think one thing that I'm going to point out here that I think is cool to hear about your guys' stories is not only have you guys had each other to lean on, but like you were talking about with all the and they're actually leaning on each other. It's so cute, you guys. I wish this was a video podcast sometimes. But also all these people that you remember throughout the history of you getting to where you are now, and how important all those people are, not only to you, but helping you get to where you want to go. I think that's so cool, just as a time everyone's, trapped inside, so to speak, because of the quarantine. It's cool for me to see how you guys are remembering those people who brought you to where you are and, honoring them.
Well, at the end of the day, all we have is each other, so,
yeah,
you gotta look out for one.
I think that's what's really great about the school we went to, Cal State Fullerton, is that we're definitely trying to prop each other up, and I think that's awesome. Everyone there's so nice.
Yeah, and for everyone listening, that's how we all met. So it's super cool. It keeps going, and to turn that into a question, because you guys are a power couple of art that I have on the podcast, you guys met in school, right?
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
Art, history of animation? Yep.
Wow, that's great. Was that with, I might cut this out, but was that with Larry Locke?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And then was it just... What was that?
Oh, Fritz the Cat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is why I said I might cut this out.
I seriously think that was the day we met, too.
No.
Yeah, I really think so. Okay. And I remember sitting there in front of you oh, my God, this is embarrassing.
Yeah, one of you guys probably was sitting in front and vomited after watching that animation, and then boom, that's how you met,
Jake was my first friend. Shout out, Jake.
Shout out. Yes, and go back for everyone listening to his episode as well.
He was my first friend at Fullerton, and he was awesome. He was great. And I remember he talked about Victor, and he showed me Victor's work. He's like, "This is my friend Victor," and I remember I was like, "Oh, that's cool." That was my reaction to his work. Oh, that's cool. And
he needs a handsome face. That's what this art is missing, right? Yeah.
That charming smile. But and he talked about Kaya.
Shout out, and go back and listen to her episode as well.
Yeah. And then one day, I there was no seats like Victor said, and I sat in front of them, but I didn't know of them yet. And I remember hearing a girl say Victor, and they're like yeah, Kaya, and I was like, and I texted Jake I think I'm sitting in front of your friends, and then he was like, say hi to them. I'm like, I don't know, and then he texted Kaya to say hi to me. Connected me, Victor, and all that. It was great. But yeah, and then from there we started playing Overwatch and talking more, and in March of the following years when we started dating.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing.
What's even cooler about that is that this is getting really deep into it now, but we were both playing a game together. We knew what our usernames were. We ended up in the same lobby, dude. It was the weirdest thing ever. What were the odds of that?
Yeah.
And it was just
whoa. Yeah. God was putting you together. That's all I gotta say. Yeah.
I DM'd him on Instagram, I think I'm playing the same game as you. He's like, oh, okay. And we just ended up playing that day. We didn't have the mic or anything because we weren't invited or anything like that. We were just, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Lovers in real life, gamers virtually. Man, what a team. And artists too. Oh man, that's such a good story. Yeah, and not to ashamedly or unashamedly promote my own podcast. Go back and listen to ones with Jake Lemke, Kaya Herman, and you guys mentioned Napoleon Chavez and Miguel Baltazar as well, who have all been on the podcast. So man, it's just the community we had at Fullerton, like you were just saying, Vanessa. I mean, what a cool opportunity that we are all able to be friends and work in art. And anyway, I wish I had a question to go along with that. It was just awesome to finally get you guys on.
Dude, thanks, man. I can vouch for you. All those episodes are amazing, dude. I've loved every single one of them, dude. You're kicking butt, and I wish you nothing but success, man. Because I love your episodes. They're so good, dude.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry it's just been so long since I've been able to get you guys on.
Oh, don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, cool. Well, that's so awesome. So you guys, you got into art, you met each other in college, you were working on art, and I know, Victor, you were saying animation kind of came to you at the last minute. One question that I want to ask is what's something, maybe it happened while you were in school, maybe it happened after school, maybe it happened after you guys met each other and started critiquing each other's work, but what was some advice or practice or reference or something that helped take your art from maybe where you started at college or where you kind of started to kind of the next level or more where you guys are now?
Man, dude, it's like with every production I've been on, there's always something new to learn. I think having an open mind and not being so attached to your work is crucial in this field. And if you're not told that in school, know that that's what it is, and that's okay because it's a job at the end of the day. It's not. It's about the overall story. Just the design itself. Whether you're working for games and it's design follows function, or whether it's animation where it tends to be more function follows story. Every single production you're on has a different
Logic,
I guess. Yeah, logic, right? Like different approach.
Yeah.
So just being ready for that, being versatile, and being able to adapt is what's gonna I think take you a long way based off what I've heard from shows I've been on, and we can really go into specifics about what kind of because I've been in feature. And that is definitely different than animation or they're both equally tough and have their own challenges, right? I'm not saying one is better than the other, and there are people that think that, and that's not okay. And then games itself, like VR, like a VR game for a gadget. Here's a shout out. I was interning with Christian Gonzalez, Cameron.
Shout out!
Cameron and Mark. But yeah, triple shout out. So there we each had our own tasks and just whether it be animating or just designing for VR gaming. It was really interesting. And it was just.
Yeah, and actually, could you real quick just go over some of the projects that you've worked on? Because you've worked on so many cool things.
Yeah, sure. I've been very blessed, very fortunate to have people reach out to me. So coming to my internship over at Gadgetbot, I had wrapped up, I graduated from school, and I had that under my belt with a couple little freelance things, whether it be toy companies or just game illustrations and whatnot. I was stuck literally in a submarine at Disneyland, for I think a good year. I could literally feel my brain melt, dude, in that every lap I took.
Oh my gosh.
I loved it, but it was time to move on, So.
You're like, can I finally find Nemo?
Yeah. Basically, I'm Craig Elliott. He was a production designer over. He worked on tons of Disney films, Treasure Planet, and all this stuff. These guys are literally my heroes. Just one day, reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, man, I noticed you're working on this film. There's Ian McKay's on it, Barry Cook, and all these big names." I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "This seems really serious," and they even had the rate up front.
Wait. So they reached out to you on the submarine ride? How did they get in contact with you?
I was literally on break, and they got in contact with me through, it was my ArtStation or Instagram, I think. It may have been that, or if it wasn't that, it was either through Emily Etzel or James C. Robb, who had sent me links to apply to these jobs.
Shout out!
Yeah, so let me get into that. I'm not sure if this is how they got my information and contact info, but when Emily sent me the job application, which came to the Guild, even though the studio wasn't part of the Guild, the studio, by the way, is called Aquaman Entertainment. I don't know if they're something around. I hope they are. I hope they're doing it right. I applied through it, got rejected instantly, which is okay. I was out of the hundreds of applications, what's one more?
Yeah.
So that happened, and then James, I think, had Craig Elliott as a friend on Facebook, right? And I think Craig said, "Does anyone know any robot designers?" Right? Because that's what tended to be most of my work at the time. It's just robot designs, and it's just it was my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And then I think we put my name down, and maybe out of that, or who knows, man. But I always love giving credit to those two because I feel like they helped. Those two little interactions on social media have gone a long way, and because of that, I've learned so much, and I'll be forever grateful for those people. And then it was really weird. I did back to Aquaman, right? I didn't have an interview. I just had a start date, and it was the weirdest thing ever, man.
They're just like, "Hey, this guy seems cool. Start Monday."
Dude, but oh my god. I mean, I think Kaya has talked about this before on Aquaman, and just her experience there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I got there, and it was a ride. Let's leave it at that.
It was well, not that this is your first job, but a first rocky industry job, right?
I mean, it's a matter of perception, right? So maybe for the higher ups, I'm sure they were really stressed out, and just all this money was being burned on blue sky work. I was loving it because I was learning a lot day in and day out. But I moved on because my friend Eric Omega, he graduated, I think, too.
Shout out!
Yeah, just one day he hit me up. He's like, "Hey, Marvel's looking for a color designer. Are you interested in taking this opportunity?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, absolutely."
You're like, yeah.
Yeah. But no, I was like, dude, that's gonna be a great new adventure, and just I really wanted to try out TV animation. And because of that, I was just like, yeah, let's do it. So I took the job, and I was there, and just it was really a fun time. It was such an easy job because of the easy art direction and just great leadership. So it made it's just so much easier, and completely different animation. Where animation sense, feature animation, sorry, or maybe it was just that project itself, but it was very like you had to adapt quickly and switch things fast because the story was being changed and all this. So much, there's a lot of work that goes into each things, but.
Oh, sorry, real quick. Could you talk about which Spider-Man project we're talking about?
Oh yeah, it's season 3 of Marvel Spider-Man. So it's Spider-Man Maximum Venom, and it is really cool seeing the stuff he painted. I'm just like, oh look, it's really cool, Mom, look,
Yeah, that's awesome.
I was able to tell your hand in the little robot, like based on the colors that you picked. I'm like, oh, that's a Victor palette right there.
And this is season 3, right? And this is TV. Is it on Disney? Disney.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They only had 12 episodes, but they broke it up into 6 hour-long specials. But that's how they're doing it. So I don't know if they're going to continue.
That's awesome, man. And I think what's cool about that story too, once again, the connections and the people that mutually benefiting each other, but also too, one thing you said in there I think is really interesting, that you were already doing what you wanted to be doing. That's, I'd draw robots on my free time. And then that's what, the art directors and everyone looked at and said, hey, we like this guy. You know what I mean? I think it's cool that you were just pursuing what you love, and that's what they noticed and picked up on. I think that's really cool, man.
Yeah, that's advice you hear from everyone say that, and it sounds counterintuitive, but projects will find you. I'm not sure if that's how it is for everyone. I think what happened to me was very rare, and I just got extremely lucky. What's luck besides preparation and being there at the right time, right? So I guess I was just in the right place, right time.
That's awesome. And before we move on to Vanessa, real quick, I just want to ask, so what exactly is your job title at Marvel, and what do you do?
So over at Marvel, it was really just a color design job, right? So whether fortunately we had 2 color designers on the show. We had one that was in charge of characters, and another was in charge of props and vehicles and all this other stuff. And that's what I did basically. And so whether it was from painting a glass of water, or just a phone or a vehicle or characters weapons like that, pretty much that's all we had. And the way we went about it at Marvel was just having these backgrounds and matching it to that certain tone. So if you look at a color designer's portfolios, they'll have the work of art, but in the BGs they'll have just a BG from a show or something like that, and that's something that people tend to look for in portfolios, and that shows that they know the certain pipeline. So learning that at Marvel was really interesting. But when you have the BG, try and have it at a Gaussian blur, so it blurs it, and your design with the colors on the foreground, so that just pops out more. So I don't know, that's something that we would do over at Marvel and with every file we submitted, because with us, our files have to be reviewed from our VP and our directors and stuff like that. So presentation was really important. But that's with any show, Not only that, but you also have to tie into the show style, and be sure you match certain temperature of or day and night keys and stuff like that. So it's very I don't know, you have to adapt to it, so.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And not to keep going with this, because I do want to come back to Vanessa, but
No worries.
So I'm assuming that stuff is given to you by your art director, right? And then are you working with their palettes in Photoshop, Illustrator? How you go about coloring these things?
Yeah, so basically, since I was very fortunate to join season 3. Season 1 of a show tends to be really hard, because that's when you're establishing all the designs, the colors, the mood, the style. Just so much goes into that first season. Season 3 was a breeze because we fortunately had those assets, and we were able to, find a range of what colors we could use and what colors we couldn't. And this is all in Photoshop. We use Cintiqs or Max and stuff like that, so it's pretty interesting standard and whatnot. But yeah, pretty much that was it. We just had to find the right palettes, whether they're used or not. And, it was through trial and error, see if that fit that scene, or that mood of the sequence and whatnot. So yeah, it was fun. It was a good time.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think it's cool too. You were talking about at the beginning, or maybe this was even before we started recording, about like, oh, I wish I'd done a little more animation so that I could, whatever for whatever projects. But I think it's cool that in the time that you spent doing what you did do in visual development, you really have an understanding of color that, for me, not coming from an illustration background, I don't know anything about color. You know what I mean? So I think it's cool that it's like, no, I feel like you were in the right place you needed to be to do that awesome job that you did. So I think that's really cool. So now going over to Vanessa and things you've learned that taken your work to the next level and like where you are now as an artist.
I think a lot of doing production work kind of prepared me of where my expectations of my work should be. So, especially working at Warner Brothers, seeing what the story artist would submit and seeing how fast the turnaround is, like a whole episode in just like 4 weeks is insane.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, I struggled with a sequence of 2 weeks. Like, that's crazy. So seeing kind of like what's expected in as an industry standard.
As far as storyboarding goes, or which area of production?
So when I worked for Warner Brothers on Scooby-Doo, I was mainly in charge of like maintaining the production of the storyboard side. And so that gave me a lot of exposure of the artist boards there, and I was able to like observe them and kind of like dissect them and all that. And that helped me learn what the standard is and what I can do to meet that standard. I'm still trying to meet that standard. I'm not a professional artist yet. Hopefully soon or someday. So working in production, it made me see like, okay, this is attainable. Like I can get here. I just have to work hard. So that helped me a lot working in production. So I can see like, oh, what's a good board? What is expected? Like how fast should a person work? And it's pretty fast.
Yeah, that's insane. I mean, 4 weeks. Holy cow, that's nuts.
I think it might vary with each production. I know for sure Jellystone was 4 weeks.
Wow, that's insanely fast. For everyone who's listening who doesn't know anything about art, first off, thanks for listening. But second of all, like that is crazy fast for how much work needs to be done. I feel like, coming from an animation point of view, those storyboards are like the key to everything as far as the production goes visually. And so I think it's really cool that like you've been able to learn from them and take the class you're taking now, which I want to get into in a second, but that you were able to see that and be like, no, that's attainable. And I'm like, in my mind, and I'm working at a studio and I'm just like, 4 weeks? That's not attainable.
Yeah, well, to be clear, I do want to start off as a revisionist. It's not in my plan to go straight into being a storyboard artist, and revisionists kind of take over the board after the 4 weeks. So let's say like, this character doesn't hook up to this scene from this scene. So the revisionist would go in, hook up the characters. Or they'll say like, oh, there's actually a change in the gag, like the execs didn't like it. So the revisionist would switch up the gag. So it's generally seen as like a starting position that leads into a storyboard position. And it's something that definitely interests me. And I'm like, okay, like that, I understand that I want to start off like as a revisionist.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah. And I think it's cool too. Like both of you guys are talking about like mentioning people who have, been friends with you and helped you along your way and also, inspired you and stuff. I think it's cool because like, I mean, go back, like you're talking about Miguel Baltazar, who was already at DreamWorks at the time. I think he was a revisionist probably at the time when you emailed him, and so now, I mean, and then he's full-time storyboard artist after that. So I think that's really cool. Actually, real quick, Vanessa, could you talk about what projects or what resume or any kind of advice that got you kind of into production originally? I know you talked about like with Miguel and stuff, but could you go a little more into that?
Yeah. Well, I would say that right there is a nugget of advice is like, if you know someone and you're comfortable with talking to them, I would say, yeah, hit them up, see if they know the name of a recruiter. Obviously understand that there might be boundaries, like maybe they don't feel comfortable giving out that information, or they have to check in with their boss to make sure it's okay to give out that information, and that's okay, and like be understanding of that.
Good try.
Yeah, but it's worth a shot, especially if you're, if you're friendly like with them, and don't like use people either.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you have a pal, it's okay to ask, but understand, certain boundaries. So yeah, and then that leads to don't be afraid to hit up recruiters. I really think that's how I got my another reason why I got my interview at DreamWorks was because I submitted my application. A couple days went by and I emailed the recruiter being like, hey, just want to let you know I submitted this application. And that kind of shows like an initiative. So yeah, I guess just not be afraid to reach out to people, but to also still remain genuine, and staying true to yourself. That definitely helped me at my interview at DreamWorks. They helped because they made it a comfortable setting. They were really sweet people. But yeah, don't be afraid to be yourself. Be a dork if you're a dork.
It's working for me so far. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, that's awesome. And actually, I kind of want to piggyback off of that, where you're talking about, being true to yourself as an artist and what you want to do. So I think it's cool that you even left production at a studio so that you could pursue your passion for storyboarding. So can we get into that class that you're taking right now and things you're learning in it? And even though it's only been, 2 weeks or something like that?
I guess I'll start with like my decision to leave my job. That was like a really tough decision to make, because I was like, I'm in the industry right now. Like, am I taking a step back? But then I realized, like, I got to focus on what I want to do. It took a lot of like talking to people. So there's a really cool program on Instagram called Rise Up Animation. Basically, they do portfolio reviews for people of color, and I was like, oh, I'm Hispanic. I can sign up for this, and it's really nice that they take up that time, and that like they understand the kind of
the struggle. Yeah,
and then that they wanted to nurture a stronger community with more inclusion. That's beautiful.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah, I signed up and I met with a Disney storyboard artist. She was over at Disney TV. Her name is Isabel Geddick.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out. She gave me like awesome advice on like my portfolio. So with that meetup that I had with her, it gave me stuff to think about while I started the class. So basically what I'm learning now is a lot of technical stuff. He's very, very big on technical, like, make sure your perspective is on point. And he's really teaching us a lot about like story structures. We had our first critique last week, and that one went really well. He was really kind about
nice
my ideas. And so that was like so basically we have like 8 weeks with him, and the weeks are split in 4 and 4. So it's week 1 is your ideas that you pitch to him. Week 2 is thumbnails. Week 3 is roughs. Week 4 is finished board. So we have to come up with a finished board in 4 weeks, and then we do the process all over again. And like I mentioned earlier, that's kind of around like an estimated deadline in
like a Jolly-Stone, right?
Yeah, so it's preparing us. I did not realize how long it would take me to do thumbs. I'm like, it's just thumbnails. Nope.
This is like the foundation, like the bones of an entire body or something.
Yeah. So I'm really, if anything, I'm learning about like more about what it takes to dedicate your time to your work and to really allocate that time. Right so far, I'm sure I'm going to learn more when we start doing our roughs and finished boards.
That's super cool. So the critique was just on then kind of your story ideas, right?
Yeah, and he was very like specific on what he wanted. He said like, I want at least like 2 characters interacting and a beginning, middle, end. And you think, okay, easy, no problem. Like, no, then So it's funny how it is challenging to come up with a beginning, middle, and end to a story,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're trying to pitch an idea to someone and you want to keep it succinct.
Oh yeah. Because I feel like that's what happened to me. Like, and we all met at Cal State Fullerton for everyone listening. So I'd be in a production class or pre-production, and I'm like, "Cool, I got this little story, and it's 2 seconds." Or I got this little story, I think it's 2 seconds, and it's 10 minutes. You know, so it's hard, like you're talking about, to have that dynamic and be succinct. So that's really cool that he gave you some good notes on that. Well, out of curiosity, what are the kinds of things that he would say about your piece or maybe someone else's?
I did pretty well my first week. He was very impressed by my story pitches that I gave him.
Some people got torn up, man. Let's leave it at that.
Oh, okay.
Well, basically, because it's exactly that. Like, their stories were really elaborate, and he was like, all right, we need to pick a sequence out of this whole story.
No, that's really cool. I think like that you know took that leap of faith, you took that step in the dark to do what you really want to do, and I think that's cool. And like Victor, you were saying earlier, just drawing robots is just what you like to do anyway, and to see that pay out in the industry, I think is really rad. Um, I have like one more question before we go into maybe where you guys want to take your art into the future, and that is, have you at any point gotten an aha moment where you're like you're maybe struggling with something on an individual drawing, or you go into production, you're like, oh, that's how it works in a real studio, kind of a thing?
Yeah, I think one comes to mind. I always like wondered how some people, like when it comes to turnarounds or like certain like really complex items, I'm like, how do they do that? Like how's it so clean? Um, but it seems to be in like biz dev or even prop design nowadays. Like I've had some interviews lately, and like they ask if you know 3D. They use like whether it be Modo or like SketchUp or just like Blender, which is free. Some people are on the design side are starting to use 3D, whether it be for environments and just like it seems to be an important part of the pipeline now, and that's how you get turns. It's just like using primitives to like just have those lines laid out. So that was like an aha moment for me, just because I'm like, oh, it seems to be something that's required. Like I was hit up by Netflix lately, and that was like one of the interview questions. They were like, "Can you do 3D? Are you comfortable using 3D?" And we just sit around, whether it be for Maya or Blender now. So it's just something to keep in mind moving forward for everyone interested in a design position. And I've even seen for like our action boards on Spider-Man, it's unfortunate that like they're practically animating now, on boards. Spider-Man boards were insanely like, there was a lot of 3D in them too. So maybe that's something to keep in mind. The action shows, at least, I'm not sure if that's how to spread the productions, but yeah, 3D seems to be coming up. You don't need to know 3D, but it definitely helps. Just it shows that you're open to learn new things.
Right, yeah, and like you're saying, it comes up in either interview questions or just on productions in general. So that's crazy. That's cool that you learned that. So do they, just as a question, take those 3D like models or whatever and then draw over them as far as like Viz Dev is concerned, or do they just like we want you to sculpt something in 3D?
Right. Well, I'm sure it's different with every production. Like with games, it seems to be now like they want you to like for Viz Dev position or concept design positions, they want you to model it so they can like move it on, and just like it's a whole different ball game over there. But yeah, basically for Viz Dev, you can just use it to block out and then just draw over it, like put a white, lay on top of it, like 50% opacity, whatever you need, or even use the model in the painting itself, But yeah, you just use those models to draw lines over it, add weight where you need to add line weight and stuff. But yeah, yeah. So.
That's awesome. That's a great answer. That's actually probably the best one I've gotten so far. So Vanessa, you got to top it. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I think specifically with storyboarding, my current instructor is very big on perspective grid lines, and he's having us learn perspective, like really like nailing it down by adding a grid in every panel and seeing how much the grid lines really help with like kind of implying like the staging and all that. I'm like, oh, I should have been adding grids a long time ago, because I would add them but sparingly, and now I'm just like, ooh, like this actually gives a clearer read. So for me, that's pretty much it. Aside from that, I think my biggest aha moment that I talk about with Victor all the time, even though I'm not like in color or that's like even though I'm not much of a painter, I did take life painting with Andrew Dixon.
Shout out.
And before that class, I knew nothing about color. But taking that class, I see, like you said, the matrix opened up, and I saw everything. I was like, oh my gosh.
Bob Ross was there.
Yeah. Bob Ross was like, everyone has a friend, even a little purple on the skin. And you're like, there's purple on my, like.
Yes. I'm like, this is saturated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely opened a new world. I'll never forget sitting in class one day, and I was like staring at a desk, and I saw like the transition go from like light to dark and like saturated to desaturated, and I was just staring at the desk like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, and that's what's cool about art, and for everyone listening, that's why I love having this art podcast where we talk about the visual, literary, and performing arts, because there's just so much to art that you could never learn all of it, and we'll always keep learning. And I think it's cool for me to hear from you guys talking about visual development and storyboarding today, just that we could all learn more together because of what you guys have learned and your experiences. So thanks for coming on the podcast to be able to talk about it. So as my last question before we get into where people can go to check out your work is, where do you guys want to take your work into the future?
So the thing I've kind of thought about this, for me, it's always like, like you said, giving back to the community, right? When I'm, become a professor one day, and or even an instructor, just give back to, younger artists. I've learned how to become a leader in the first place, and learn how to, how production works, and just have that experience to back up, that advice, I guess, which is, being able to help someone when I'm older would be awesome. But before then, it'd be great to move up the ranks, learn what I like, what I feel like I fit into, what projects appear, and just just you got to roll with the wave, just take on whatever challenges that come your way, So I'm not really sure if that's a clear answer, but I'd love to eventually one day be a production designer, but that's down the line.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So moving your way to becoming the production designer of, like, say, a show, a video game, a movie, what are you kind of thinking?
I'd love to do it all, and it's like that's why I kind of like my art's not really like one thing or another, So I just want to try it all, and it'd be great, But depending on where the studio is, because here in SoCal we're divided. We're all over the place. A lot of games tend to be over in NorCal. SoCal seems to be divided by the hills and Hollywood. There's like Burbank area, there's like the Sony lot downstairs, and there's Irvine down there too. So I don't know. Realistically, we'll see what happens and just roll with the ball. Yeah,
well, it's cool that not only do you know about all those opportunities and places to be able to work, but that you've been on those cool projects and have had, a very wide and what am I trying to say? Wide and experience, but also like a strong portfolio because of it, that you've worked on TV shows, you worked on games, you worked on movies. So I think that's really cool that I already see you moving in that production design direction. That's awesome, man. So what about you, Vanessa? What about you? What about end goals for you?
My immediate goal right now is to hopefully one day work as a story revisionist. I do want to stick with TV animation. Kind of like the deadlines.
It's exciting because it's quick, right?
Yeah, and then you get to work on like a bunch of new episodes, and I think that I don't know. I think that's fun, So definitely, I want to do story revisionist, and one day that'll hopefully lead to story artist. Maybe one day a director, but I don't know for sure if I want to be a showrunner. But who knows? That's it for the far, far future.
Yeah.
So for now, I just want to look into becoming a story revisionist.
Well, that's awesome. And I think it's cool that both of you guys have big ambitions, because you guys have, like you've already said, worked on such cool projects. And like you talked about, Vanessa, just like really knowing like, no, this is what I want to do. Like, and seeing storyboarding as a step for you to eventually get to being a director, being a showrunner. I mean, that's what it takes. And so I think it's cool that you guys are actively taking the time, the energy, the effort to build your skills, and like we talked about way at the beginning, that you're critiquing each other's work too to help make each other stronger, I think is what's going to get you guys to that place that you want to be. So I think that's super cool you guys are doing that, and it's super cool for me and everyone listening to be able to hear about you guys doing that. So thanks for coming on the show.
No, thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
man. They
It's
say,
really nice.
yeah, you're awesome, bro. I'm really proud of you, man. And I'm so excited to see what you get into. But they say, slow is fast. So it's like, just take it one step at a time and you'll get to where you want to be before you even know it.
It's true. I mean, it really is, and I think that's what's cool about this episode. I know we got to wrap it up in a sec because I don't want to be conscious of your guys' time, but I don't want anyone to miss out on the cool work that you guys have already been making. So where can people go online to check out your work, like Instagram, ArtStation, any of that stuff?
So for me, a tip I've heard from a lot of people is try and have you don't have to, but you're trying to have your handle and portfolio all under the same, username. And that's kind of how I have mine set up. So you guys can find my work at victorhcalleja.com. It's also my Instagram handle. It's spelled Victor H Calleja. And that's my, ArtStation, Instagram, Facebook, all that one. So yeah.
And mine's kind of similar. It's the same on all platforms. So Instagram, Twitter, my website, it's all under Vanessa V. V is in Vanessa. So Vanessa V. Galeano, Galeano.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, I can't wait to see more of it. I love being on Instagram, ArtStation, being able to check out your guys' work and seeing what you've been doing in the industry. I can't wait to see some storyboards coming up from you, Vanessa, on Instagram from this class. Hopefully, we'll see if you can post them or not.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show, guys. And that concludes my interview with Victor H. Calleja and Vanessa Galeano. Like we were just talking about, check out their work online. And while you're checking out stuff on Instagram, go to our Instagram, Up and Coming Artist Podcast, for more great artists' work. We actually promoted Victor and Vanessa way back, so if you go through the artist promos, you can see their work, as well as a ton of other great artists that I've had such a joy to be able to follow and be inspired by. So go ahead and check those out. And one more shout out I got to do here, along with all the other shout outs we did in this episode. Vanessa mentioned Rise Up Animation in the interview. And this gets no kickback to me, but I just think it's a really cool thing that's going on right now. Rise Up Animation basically gives portfolio reviews to people who are minorities in the US and all over the world. And it's a great way to get your work seen by industry professionals if that's what you're looking at wanting to do, say if you're in the animation industry. So definitely go online and check that out. If you're in one of those categories, and while you're there, just check out Victor and Vanessa's work. And thank all of you for checking out this episode. And in whatever area of art you enjoy, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep on creating.